Nigeria's National Electoral Commission has declared Alex Otti of the Labour Party winner of the governorship election in Abia State. He scored 175,467 votes to beat Oke Ahiwe of the People's Democratic Party, who came second with 88,529 votes.
Is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
That was the defining moment as supporters of the Labour Party celebrate inside the INEC Coalition Center. Out in the streets of Umuahia, the state capital, residents are beginning to get the news of Alex Otti's emergence as governor-elect of their state.
Well, the achievement of that electoral landmark in Abia State seems to have ushered in a whole new feeling about politics and governance, not just in that state, but the entire southeast of Nigeria. It was a victory which effectively ended 24 years of political dominance by People's Democratic Party in the state. It also gave Labour Party its first taste of state control, an extension to already unprecedented electoral gains accomplished by the party within the short period of existence. How is this development likely to impact politics in the region going forward? Well, to have a discussion, we're now being joined from our right Abuja by Dr. Sam Amadi, lawyer, academic, one-time governorship aspirant in Imo State, former chairman of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, as well as our rights analyst. Good morning. Great to have you, Dr. Amadi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to have you. Well, I'm sure that you followed the intro that we had there. Thank you very much. Let's start with the landmark.
I did, yeah.
Okay, very well. Let's start with the landmark victory in Abia State, where Dr. Alex Otti has emerged as the governor under the platform of Labour Party. Talk to us about the import of this victory. One, for somebody who has, attempted to be governor thrice and is winning the third time, and more importantly, running on the Labour Party that has embodied a new kind of movement in Nigerian politics. And if you like, how has that, puts the entire Southeast now that the electoral map has changed, 2 states for APC, 1 for ABGA, 1 for Labour, and PDP, interestingly, reduced to just 1. What is the implication, and do you think that Dr. Alex Otti's victory will play any role whatsoever in the new Southeast that is emerging, politically speaking?
Okay, first, let's say that this is a toast to Dr. Otti's tenacity. He has done this 3 times, and many people believe that he won. I think the last time he did, he won the election, but was rigged out or deprived. He even won at the tribunal, but lost at the higher courts. Again, we've seen a convergence of moments and people. The Southeast has been in this convulsion for some time due to failure of leadership, especially Abia. Abia has been a place that has been highly criticized for poor leadership, starting from Orji Uzokalo, who created a dangerous precedent of handpicking, if you like. The other Orji, Teodoro, won while in SSS or EFCC detention, handpicked by Orji himself, and of course, the last governor was Teodoro's who worked for him. So this is not a disruption in the politics of Abia, and they needed one. PDP, unfortunately, the PDP candidate, a young candidate, perhaps very competent and good, but essentially the party's legacy has been that of failure in Abia and rightly removed from power. Now, if you look at the margin, very large, it attests to 3 things: the people's yearning for change, Dr. Otti's pedigree and profile as somebody who everybody acknowledge who have the capabilities and the experience to drive a change. And thirdly, the Obi factor. That was a big one. Because look, experience in the Southeast in down ballot across Nigeria. I heard you talk about the fact that Obi got 6 point, I think, something million, and they're still disputing. But they probably could have got more. What we saw in the state election is that local actions conditions play that big in some of the states in Southeast. Incumbents actually muzzle their way. So for OT to withstand all the force of PDP entrenched incumbency means that the P2B factor played big in motivating, giving new energy to his otherwise voters, people who have voted twice, demoralized, not willing to. But when they saw the presidential election and saw how big Obi won, they were more encouraged that, look, they can do this. So 3 factors play that here. Now, what does it mean for Southeast? Southeast has moved from an enclave to now a very competitive zone where the 3 leading parties, or 4 leading parties now, or 3 years, 4 actually with ABGA, has states base to launch their activities across the zone. ABGA used to be seen more as a Southeast party by virtue of Obi holding down, and then Obiano and now Soludo being the party that has Ojukwu as his, if you like, alter ego and hero. But with Labour having strong footing, not just the governorship, I mean, Labour could argue that they won Enugu or close to winning, the very small margin. They declared the Senate House of Rep positions. They have the same in Imo. They have in Anambra. So Labour is actually the stronger party now in the Southeast, if you rate it in terms of representative offices and other offices. And in terms of momentum, now, PDP has lost ground clearly in the Southeast because of many factors, including the fact that Southeasterners felt that PDP broke faith in not zoning the presidency to the Southeast. So it will be a great job to see how PDP claps back. Imo is in play. PDP is strong in Imo with a possible Emeke Hedionha or Samdadi being their Sazama Anyanwu being their candidate. We might see a strong push in November. But again, APC, now that's the big thing. APC was a party, is a party that people felt the Southeast rejected. If you look at down ballot, let's look at public sentiment, but they're holding 2 states, more from convenience. If you look at Ebonyi, people were angry around the zoning issue, which PDP interference, PDP's failure to follow rules and processes resulted in even somebody like Payasanyim supporting the APC that has ridiculed him over the years to win that seat and keep Abia under APC. I can argue that, apart from Omahia's significant achievement in infrastructure, that the sentiment of people in Ebonyi is actually more of Labour. If you look at the result of the presidency with other allegations and the suppressions. So the Southeast would be a very interesting place to watch. Whether the obedience really develop the muscle to match their popularity in down ballot Senate, House of Reps with the governorship. Now, the nature of this election is that we saw a very criminalized process with so much brutality. If you look at Imo, for example, the Hope Uzodinma APC got 27 by their declaration. But you go to the IRF, they lost many of the House of Assembly seats. So the question is, how much does these gubernatorial successes represent the real state of play in these states in terms of public support? And how much does the electoral result represent the triumph of muscle over preference of people? So we look at the results, we miss the point. We could be distracted. If you look at Lagos, for example, Obedient won, but they can argue, and that's the argument, that they won bigger. If you look at maybe Rivers, PDP won, but the argument of the guys that maybe they could have won or couldn't have won as they did. So I don't want to look at the results. I want to see some dynamics. And what I see in the South is that South is mostly going to look like a place where APC and Labour would probably be the strongest party contending. APC, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu retains the presidency, and the political behavior will be that some of the failed politicians in PDP or elsewhere could migrate to APC and strengthen that platform, which is what we saw before this election when some Southeast political heavyweights moved to APC. because it was a government in power. And then the Labour Party could, take over the rump of opposition in that territory, especially if they do well in Imo State and win that seat. So they will be having 2 governors plus almost a half. If you look at Anambra, look at Enugu, in spite of PDP, managing to take the big prize, you see that Labour did very, very well in the House elections. So it could be that tribunal or whatever happens, they might have up to 2 states out of 5. I think Labour will be the strongest in terms of dynamics, and APC might be the party that will be contending with Labour in the Southeast in the long term. Except PDP in Imo does something different and wins that seat, and they use it as a launchpad. Imo is big. Imo Anambra represents bigger political dynamics in the Southeast.
Yes, very valid points you've raised there, Dr. Amadi. Just like you said, the electoral map has changed. Seeing Labour Party winning the governorship seat in Abia, we have 8 senators now, about 38 House of Rep members. Now, projecting into the next election cycle, do you think that Labour Party can maintain this momentum?
If it does 2 things, one, Labour has to manage to keep a national outlook, and to do that, they have to feed into the obedient movement, which cuts across ethnic, religious lines, cuts across party in many cases, and bring them together to the party. And that means they have to begin to think around being an alternative in terms of the P2B manifesto provides a very good counterpose to the dominant elitist politics of Nigeria. Now you have to cash it out in terms of structure, training, orientation. Look at the Labour Party in the UK. I think in 1945 or thereabout, when they started thinking around a new policy to deal with being Labour. I mean, Labour UK, Labour Nigeria might not be the same. But essentially, what that requires is that there's a strong push, 2 levels of contention in Nigerian politics today. The status quo, conservative, neo-feudal Nigeria. We are keep it as it is. And what I call the disruptive democratic citizenship Nigeria, where people who are marginalized, whether certain Katuna people, whether people in the Southeast, whether the people who are talking about Odua in the Southwest, are all coming together to articulate a non-authoritarian logic that is more consensual, that's based, structure is part of it, democratic citizenship is part of it, public sector that's not based on prerogatives and the prebendalism is part of it, the notion of a justice system that deals, that's privileged and wealth blind is part of it. Now, if you can aggregate all these things and present Labour as that alternative to this status quo Nigeria, then Labour will grow stronger and stronger in a global sense. The second thing that needs to happen is to stop the migration of Labour candidates who have won, Labour legislators mainly, from Labour to the ruling party. The Nigerian politicians, the post of Nigeria is a post of rent, and if they can't get the rent in where they are, the tendency to move to APC or PDP, depending on the states they come from in the north, might be very tempting. So I see Labour working at 2 ends. If they strengthen that pan-Nigerian, if you like, radical platform and mainstream it and tie it to different pockets of discontentment, then they're going to be a street force, a force that's on the ground. And that would be very attractive to even transactional politicians who will be looking at, these guys are in my street and they are strong in my street. So I have a better chance of getting elected by tapping to this strong mass movement. If they do that and then create a strong capacity for governance, showcase with Abia now what a Labour government would look like, showcase with the legislators the level of policy intervention they propose. And I think Labour might end up dislodging PDP as a ruling party, as a main opposition, if things stay as they are. Now, that depends also on what PDP did. Will PDP move away from the swashbuckling nature of entitlement and get down to restructuring, redesigning themselves and emerging with PDP has a strong, attractive platform as a pan-Nigerian party, but it needs to rework itself to remain the main opposition, assuming Ashwaju ends up being from print-elect to become the president in May 29.
Okay, Dr. Amadi, how strong do you think that the ideology behind the obedient movement will be sufficient in, keeping the Labour Party very active. I'm saying this just, to tap into your last sentence. If Asiwaju wins at the court and is sworn in as the president and he retains his presidency, with Obi out of the equation, it means that something will have to propel that movement for the next 4 years. But then we see that many of the elected, representatives of Labour are not natural Labour politicians. They have moved from one party to the other before they found a platform in Labour. More than 45 of them will be in Abuja at the National Assembly, where, as you know, a lot of underhand things can happen. People get enticed, people, can move from one party to the other. Will this be an endurance test for the Labour Party, on the long run?
Yes, I think it will be a test of character for Labour on 2 levels. One is the originators, Peter himself and the people around him, the major figures like Aisha Yusufu, like Pato Tomi, the people we see at the campaign stumps. It will be a test of character, whether really they have this sense that Nigeria needs a change, and this change could be, could take a long time to come or needs some process. Now, if they get down to work and not get carried away or despair about electoral victories or failures, and see Nigeria from the eye of those young boys and young men and women who were out in the streets, euphoric. That young boy who stood at that moment and stopped Peter Obi's entourage. If they see Nigeria from that point of view and start to care more about how do we create an alternative, they might last. Now, if they look at this as, election, you're right. I mean, most of the people who ran for Labour are opportunists who basically saw that there's a wave coming and they were kicked out of PDP. My senator who won on Labour platform, having a senator for PDP, lost the primary, switched over to Labour. I'm not sure he embodies any Labour aspiration, but he's a Labour politician. So we're going to work at 2 levels. How do you educate these people, try as much as possible to, let them know about what Labour stands for, kind of drip feed them so that somewhat they may not become champions of Labour ideas, but they're not too far from those ideas. That's number 1 work to do. Retreats, training for these new persons, and they begin to get into the groove and they see that they can actually get national acclaim doing the work of the people. You see, the thing about political dynamics is that they can radicalize and transform politicians when the politicians themselves are caught up in the euphoria of success, doing good things. The art resembles life. You now become like what you are imagining. The second work that needs to be done is to, and that's why I think the sustainability lies, is not to worry about these new entrants who just came in and won an election, but to worry more about recruiting and building a network, a party that can actually win elections from time to time. Now, you might not have the resources in terms of politicians who are governors helping, but it will have real energy. I believe that the new government, typical of the Nigerian dysfunctionality, might not produce optimal results. And any failure, if you're already strong as an alternative, with this Nigerian youth energy, with their function, creating new idealism, you harvest all this, and you'll be in a better position, even in 2027, to win big, and not just win it. The reason why Labour and such movements don't win the past is that the Nigerian politics is configured to be resistant to change. The incumbency factor, the appointment of INEC officials that make them, beholden to political authorities, the police structure that enables aids rigging at every level, whether PDP, APC, or anybody. These are the things that Labour Party should focus on. So if they are able to succeed to change these dynamics a little bit, then they are going to be more, competitive in other elections without the support of this political class. I mean, this is Peter Obi's image driving this, and the symbolism of Labour helped, and the EndSARS, the legacy and after effect of EndSARS crisis also helped, because people who are angry, who don't see any hope, who see darkness in the Nigerian frontier, suddenly saw hope. He said the people in darkness have seen a light, no matter how incoherent that light is. They see a light, they embrace it, they re-articulated it and used it as a platform to create their society. They came short in terms of not winning the presidency, but they made major achievements. Can they leverage on that, build back and deepen the structure of this aspiration, and appoint new leaders who have not just political career to protect, but also have ideas to project, and who have disposition, who are disposed to this kind of politics? I think this might be a new moment for Nigeria, where we're going to have two strands of politics: the politics of change, the politics of ideas, the politics of passion, versus the politics of basic economics, of career, of getting to a job, of sustaining power. And that will be good for the country. Right now, the dynamics is that if Labour keeps what they have got, if they expand to become a more articulate, a pan-Nigeria, and remove some of those, ethno-religious maybe sentiments and tropes that people use to undermine their national character, that this might be the moment that Nigeria will have real choice, and we might get back to a de facto two-party state party structure, which is what advanced democracies have. De facto two-party, one maybe a party that's represents status quo, and a party that is coming with great ideas. And you see that in every 8 years there will be transition from status quo to change, and then change fails or doesn't deliver, back to status quo. And that has been the way democracies have worked across the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amadi, for your analysis on the Labour Party's entry and, of course, Southeast politics.